Good afternoon. I, Monica, welcome you all to the Alumni Day. It gives us immense pleasure to have continued ties with you. Hope you're all faring well in your domain. You are our valued ambassadors and an integral part of the IIIT fraternity, and we're glad that you could take the time out from your busy schedule for this day. I now request Mr. Naveen to grace this occasion by lighting the lamp. I request Mr. Das, Mr. Sudeep, and Mr. Vidyasagar to please join them. Thank you, sir. Present amongst us today is one of our esteemed alumni members, Mr. Naveen Gowda. Mr. Gowda is the Vice President at the Next Gen Deployment at Schneider Electric. His areas of expertise are change management, innovation leadership, and consulting. I request you to address the gathering, sir.
It's nice to be here, and sometimes I'm tongue-tied seeing all of us again together. And, some people say I'm old, some people say I'm coming from one of the earliest batches in IIIT. Yeah, I'm Naveen Gowda. I passed out in 2001. Yeah, looks like a long time ago, right? No? Thank you. And for all you know, I have never studied in this campus. Yeah, I come from a campus which is much more bigger, taller. We had a smaller place, but we have a bigger building. So this was ITPL. I studied between 2000 to 2001. Very interesting phase then. That was the tallest glass building in Bangalore that time. Yeah, I remember coming for the first day in the interview. I sat in front of the building. I just prayed to all gods I know. I want to get into this institute. You cannot remember. I'm remembering myself. I was sitting in the interviews, and the panel was so great. The people who admire, people who desire to be. I said, okay, I prayed all the gods. Somehow the God was listening that time to me. He's tuned into my frequency, I believe. and he responded, and I got into the institute. And next 1.5 years was a bliss. I had such a time. I don't know how many of you can recognize the picture of mine. It is put up on that flex boards in the middle center. So my wife saw it and said, "You look funny." My son called me a nerd. "You're among the nerds." I said, "No, I'm not." Okay, coming back to the institute after a long time, again and again, makes me feel like a kid again. Makes me feel like I'm part of you. Makes me feel like I am along with you. In the corporate world, we were just talking later in the lunch. We tend to become alienated. We tend to become alone. As you grow higher and higher, I'm not that high. I mean, of course, there are much better people in front of us. So as you go higher and higher, you start to be alone. You're given a corner cubicle. It's supposed to be a status symbol, You stay in a corner. You have an assistant. And you have people to work for you, people to do whatever you say. But there you're alone. You come here, you become part of you. I can say that I'm your friend. I'm with you guys. So I don't want to really take too much time and do anything. I just want to share the space with you and learn what I could learn from this day. Welcome to the Alumni Day.
Thank you, sir. I now request our Dean, Mr. Dipakrita Das, to please address the gathering.
Good afternoon, everyone, and nice to see all the faces still fresh in my mind. If I recollect from my memory, I can say where you used to sit in this class, and and all rest is history. I used to pull them up as they're absent in the class, next in the corridor. So nowadays people are very smart. You used to come close, but nowadays if they see absent in the class from distance, they disappear. The sir will catch me, and now he'll ask what happened. Politely I ask them, your health is okay, then after that I ask all tough questions. That is a wonderful life, actually. There's a great relationship between a student and a teacher, which I enjoy when I go to my alma mater, and still I respect my professors a lot, actually, because I learn what if I am standing at here, I am standing for three persons. One is my teacher, second is my parents, third is my God, and fourth one is my students. So they are the best things. If I have four pillars around me to keep me as a roof, These are the 4 pillars of mine. Okay, and now I am always surrounded by the students because I learn from them a lot. Huge learning. If I go to lab, there are 10 brains are working, I have only one brain. There are 10 brains are 10 different directions, and they teach me a lot of the latest research activities going on, latest courseworks in the world, what are the new courses coming up in my areas, and where I should learn also. They tell me, sir, you should learn these things. Okay, very nice. Then I learn from them and come to MTech class and IMTech class as if I know all these things. I present to them. This is my secret, okay? I learn from them and pass on to you. So good, so wonderful to see. And let me quickly tell you, because you have graduated, some of you recently and some of you long back, lot of changes happened in the last 3 years particularly. Last 3 years, there's a lot of dynamic changes has happened. I will start from the administration to academics to the research and all. So quickly let me go through giving the larger picture. One role you have seen at here IIIT was that there is a board of governors and director. The rest was flat. Nothing. All of us used to be same as all professors. We used to only teach and do research, and we used to help director for different activities. But you never hold any post at that time. Up to 2013 end, not 2014 actually. Once last year only. So in 2013, the board of governors saw that we have grown a lot. What the growth has happened, I'll tell you. In which direction and all. So in 2013, in the one of the early board meeting, the structures started coming in that directors should be helped by at least 2 deans, and then of 4 positions was there, and then coordinators. There are 5 coordinators now. I'll tell you which are those coordinators. And then incubation company, section 25 company came in, then outreach section came in, and our placement internship moved towards that directions. All those things I will explain to you. So in the 2013 November, there was a interview happened for the dean positions, and there are 2 people were selected, and one is the dean faculty, Professor Balaji is looking at. Another gentleman given a 2 dean position called dean academics, dean R&D. Unfortunately, they looked at me, or unfortunately it was me who was selected. Okay, so I am doing my duties on that directions. So I am holding now dean academics, dean R&D. Those who graduated before 2014, and they might not have known that. So from that sense, I am here. Okay. So what are the things happening under the academics? Academics, we have, if you 2012, we might have heard that we have started a new program called IIMTech, 5 years program. And before that, it was a MTech program, which from the day one. And the MTech program, which Naveen was explaining, that we used to have IIIT's own entrance examinations. After that, we used to select by taking the interview. So if 2000 or 2500 people used to write written test, from that we used to call 600 people for interview. Out of the 600, we used to select 150 people for this, for the admission at here. Okay, and in that admissions MTech program up to 2012, it went on like that. After 2012, we moved slowly 50% to the GATE, and in 2013 onwards, and it is a 100% GATE score for the MTech admissions. And you will be happy to know that our last year 2014 GATE score topper is 99.6 percentile, and the bottom one is 98.7. So this is the band in which we are getting the admission of 2014.
I'm happy I was not
It is tough. It is tough getting that much, because and also we have made a restriction for only 3 branches. It only GATE score with computer science, ECE and EE is allowed to apply. So that itself is total 13 lakhs people wrote GATE exam last year. Out of that 13 lakhs, 7.5 lakhs belongs to these 3 categories. 7.5, more than 50% come under this category. Why? Because I will tell you why, sir. In information technology, why? Because our courses are gone on more on depth. So we felt that if you make it much more wider and interdisciplinary, then maybe difficult, particularly advanced algorithms and all things came in. So this is a changes happened in the admission. And in MTech, we have still same number of students, 150. So 2 batches, 150, 150, 300. IIMTech from this year, it will be 120. It was 160 till last year's. And there will be another big change which they will come to know, you will come to know. We are starting a new stream called Computer Science and Engineering and Electronics and Communication Engineering from this year, most likely from July 25th, most likely. So all these things depends on the Senate on 8th of April, coming month. This is March. So we have a Senate, we are going ahead with the proposal. If Senate pass that, so we are coming ahead with that. So that will be a big change from academics point of view, from integrated. But till now we had information technology, which you know. So we are changing to computer science engineering. But information, majority of our IT students studies computer science and engineering and also ECE mixed up. So now because we have a faculty which you saw in 2000 in ITPL, it was 7 full-time and rest was visiting. Now we have 36 full-time and we have 10 visiting, so 45. So number of faculty has increased, so we can take that pressure of two streaming. We can able to teach that, labs and all we can develop. So we are dividing on that direction as IIM-Tech is concerned. And also slowly computer science side also in information technology M-Tech, which many of you are gone through. So all of you have gone through actually, because IIM-Tech yet to be alumni, so they are in the 3rd batch. So now there are 7 specialization now: computer science, data science, networking communications, software engineering, and the new one started 2014 is called electronic system design. And that gate score is higher than the IT gate score this time admission. So they are very high cutoff for them. And that electronic system design has 2 streams inside that. One is called system on chip, another one is embedded. Embedded was there as a specialization previously, now it is gone into electronic system design. And there is new one is started called basic science, means physics, chemistry and mathematics, because we have 5 years program which is BTech and MTech, so they need math, physics, chemistry, if you remember our BTech days. So all those things are now in, so we have professors on those areas and teaching those math, physics, chemistry, biology, and we have also plans to grow those areas also. So this is from they are around 60 into 3, 180. From this year it will be 120 per batch. And there is a very interesting growth has happened in MS and PhD. You know, can you imagine how many MS PhD students in this campus now active? 82. 82. They are very silent, they work very silently, so they don't make no much noise. So the number is 82, out of which 40 is PhD students and 42 is our MS students, so total 82. And they're pretty active, they publish a lot, and so now our publications has gone up like good numbers. So this is the way now. Now you used to, up to 2012 we used to have a constant number of students, 300 for around more than 13 years, more than 13 years we have 300. But suddenly now is 599, just one number less from 600, and we have a growth plan of by another 3 years will be 1000. Now question comes, sir, how we will going to accommodate these 1000 students? You must have got the information. Just behind your hostel building, if you go after these presentations, you will see a 600-seater is 600 rooms dormitory, single room is coming up, and that will be commissioned by 10th of April after 15-20 days. Okay, so the suppose according to the yesterday's information, 10th of April it will be commissioned. So 600 rooms are coming up, that is 600, and the front one is 400, total 1000. So everyone will stay in the campus. Okay, so that is the plan, and there is a future plan also, which when we will get the money from the government, that present from your hostel, that L-shape another big building will come up for our M-Tech, IIM-Tech, for research labs also. We are planning an academic block, another academic block. It will go up to the pool. From here, that building what you see, the canteen, that will be demolished. So all L section 1 academic block will come up, all labs and classrooms, auditorium for 400 seaters will come. And where will take the food? The new hostel. Below there will be 300 seater dining hall is there. The big dining hall is coming up. All these things I explained to you as a academic and the infrastructure point of view. So now let me move to the another good thing which you have done. From one thing I have left is academic, is now we are hand-holding some institute. You will be little surprised, sir, we are shortage of faculty and how we are managing those things. So Ministry of External Affairs requested us, so because India now helping his neighboring countries for different reasons which you can guess. So one of the countries is called Myanmar, which used to call as a Burma. Burma, somebody told them that IIIT-Bangalore is doing very well, so they wanted to develop an institute called Myanmar Institute of Information Technology, MIIT. Okay, so we are now handholding them to, they have started the institute last year. So we are giving them a program called PGDSE, Postgraduate Diploma in Software Engineering. And in that, we are teaching them and also training their faculty, computer science faculty, to teach much better and all. So we will handhold them for 5 years. The first batch just finished the course on the 8th of March. Today is 14, only 6 days back. Okay, 8th of March, their Viva, everything finished. You remember some Burmese students used to be here, 30 students here. They came for 6 months here, then they went back there and did their projects and all. So that also we are doing, and their convocation will be end of this month. So we'll go and distribute the certificate in Burma. So that is the thing we are doing. And so together we are 599. Okay, and that is the from academic point of view. Now I'll come to the R&D. What are the R&D new things we have done at IIIT-Bangalore? And we look so small, but let me tell you that we have completed around 43 projects, R&D projects, sponsored from MNCs, government and all. At present, we have active 24 research sponsored projects funded from MNCs like HP, Intel, Microsoft, and all those companies, and long list is that. And also Government of India's of different DST, Department of Science and Technology, Department of Electronics and Information Technology, and also we have from other departments like your educations, higher educations and all. And similarly from the Government of Karnataka, also from higher education and also Department of IT. So we have a lot of funding projects, this government and MNCs, and also from the different foreign prestigious projects like EU, European Unions, we have sponsored project, NSF, National Science Foundation USA, from there also we have funding projects. So we have a lot of funding projects from different sponsored international bodies, and also our Gates and Melinda foundations and all. And so if we look at that, we are handling from Dean R&D 24 active projects, and some are under negotiations, some of the MNCs which may take place very shortly. So my 35 colleagues, and also we have staff. You know, when I joined in that ITPL, we had only 7 staff. Now we have close to 35 staffs. So many faculty, staff and all. So these are the people all handling the academics and R&D operations. We have a financial advisors and all. And like this, we have grown in many respects. So in that, we are bringing in a lot of processes to our system. Previously, everything used to run from the memory, that okay, I have to talk to him this, I have to talk to him that, I have to give him assignment, collect him and all these things are slowly fade away, because so many things are coming in. So LMS, all those tools we are bringing in, and also in finance also we are bringing in so many tools, your grades and all. So these are the things coming up. And at the end, I also want to tell you the alumni that what are the facilities we are keeping for the alumni. We have made a separate office for the alumni. Roshni and Samukh is there working, and the help of Mr. Jagdish, who is heading that office. And he's a great, the 3 of them has great help. Mr. Jagdish has enormous experience in corporate, and now he's in academia. So it is bringing us a lot of new ideas, lot of activities for the alumni. If you want to take some executive program like analytics and all, we have a program. We are planning to start something on VLSI. So a lot of programs we have started for our alumni. Plus we have an incubation center. If you want to take a seed money, there is an incubation center there. If you can take that and do some incubation at here, that is also there. So these are the things we have kept it for alumni. And also moreover that, if you want to do research from your company to the faculty, come and talk to the concerned faculty and start collaborative work, research and all, which I am just started one with the Siemens yesterday. You must be knowing Psychath, and we are discussing some of the works on IoT, Internet of Things can be done or all. So these are the things done from the same site. And now I told about MTech admissions, the process GATE score. IMTech we do through All India main examinations. MS, PhD, we do the admission through their scores, what are the scores and their publications and the interviews. Similarly, our faculty also goes through a very tough selection process. Don't think that only students. We also suffer equally or worse. So any faculty comes in, it goes through the 5 rounds of interviews. 5 rounds, okay, it's not easy. Let me tell you, because I cannot tell in front of that corridor because my colleagues are. So what are the 5 rounds? All the minimum requirement is PhD and good publications. After that, there is an internal committee there, first round. After getting all those CVs, they shortlist that whom to call, whom to not to call. They eliminate 50% there. After those 50% or 60% eliminated, then 40% come. All of them has PhD and publications, good publications. Then after that, they call that person, please come, with a lot of affection they call him. And from morning 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock, they grill him. Everyone, 20 people interviews him. After that, 3 o'clock, you must be seeing in 1:32 every Wednesday, there is a presentation. That presentation is also silently marked. So that is round 2 and 3. Round 2 is individually each faculty give their feedback. How is this person's knowledge wise? And the presentation is round 3. If it is both are not good, also get eliminated. Then after this, then we send the person 3 unknown people for recommendation with his CV that whether this person's outside world. 3 people's recommendation letter comes. That's the 4th round. Anyone says no, then it goes 4th round. After all 4th round is done, then many people got eliminated. After that, we send it to the external. They take 1 hour minimum interview, presentation followed by interview. That is 5th round. After all these things, then we write down the report, send it to director, then the chairman. But those director and chairmen are, I can say, not so much critical because these 4 round eliminations makes their life, our life very nice. So this is the way this institute filters both the faculty and also the students as admission is concerned. So like this, we are making these processes to take it forward. For your alumni now I can tell you, because now you are our colleagues, not for the students, okay? You're not. So this is the way we have the selection process and all kind of things. So let me stop here quickly because I have taken my time off given to me. So now I will quickly come to a conclusion is this, that alumni has to play a bigger role. Now you are like our friends and colleagues to us, and you are working in a different environment, different challenges. First and foremost thing, please keep us updated where the industry is moving. Of course we know we are reading a lot of things, but you are on the field, you are on the field, there. So please update us the technologies and also the businesses, in which direction it is moving and where we should focus, and then we can trend our new generation on that directions. And secondly, I always request you to innovation is extremely important. So if you feel like you are all potential you have, so come back, discuss with our faculty for the research and innovations, because next generation of India will only survive by new products and new innovations. Service industry will go to Bangladesh and Vietnam and Philippines, looks like. If Bangladesh turmoil goes on, then Ukraine and all, then some years India will have a jobs of services. But if they have pretty stable government, so then we are challenged because of various reasons. So products, innovations, we should do more and more to survive. So thank you again. Thanks for visiting us, thinking about us, and see you again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the introduction. And this is the time which comes for us after long waiting. I take the pleasure of inviting the elite panel on the board. So let me go by introducing panel members. I'll start with Sudeep, you. Sudeep Banerjee, most of you already know. I think he's a very well-known name here. He's currently the independent director for IIB industry. He's a veteran IT industry leader for the 3 decades. Most of you are not even past 3 decades, I believe. So he has been a leader for us in 3 decades, and he has been instrumental in developing industry where it is now. These are the people who have brought IT into India. These are the people who have made IT of India as an IT powerhouse. His mainstay has been in Wipro for a long time, and he has been heading the enterprise solution division in Wipro, and then he became the CEO for L&T Infotech, and he was chairman for one of their L&T Infotech, one company called GDA Technologies. Since few years, We have been fortunate enough to have him outside the corporate and have him for the full IT industry. So he's been a consultant to many companies where he has been worked closely with business development, market entry, product introduction, this kind of activities which are very crucial for us. He's an independent director at IIFB Industries, as I told you, additional director to Kesaram Industries. He is the member advisory board for TAPME Business School, Jaipur, and is member of board of the governors for Indian Institute of Information Technology in Allahabad. Nobody's perfect. Yeah. Please, I take the pleasure of welcoming you. Please welcome with a big applause. So I'll move to one week to another week. So let me take the fortune of introducing Mr. Vidyasagar Rajagopalan. He's a consultant to business in human capital management and senior leadership coach. He provides consulting to organization area of organization capability, leadership development, HR strategy, goal congruence, rapid innovation process, and mentoring the startups. So the startups, which I met one of the startups here, so you know whom to connect with. He engages with the leaders and the teams, bringing new dimensional changes in newer perspectives and performance to produce superior leadership at breakthrough levels. As I said, he says briefly that he is a leadership coach, but for your information, he coaches CEOs. Yeah, he's a leaders coach. So he has coached in his career, he has coached many CEOs, and he continues to do so. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your contribution, and thank you for being here. As we say in my company, last but not the least, let me have the pleasure of introducing Shikha Gupta, my colleague and leader in our company, Schneider Electric. Shikha heads the HR for R&D in India. Schneider Electric has been growing tremendously in the last few years in the R&D domain. So she has been instrumental in shaping it up, shaping the way it is today in Schneider Electric. She is responsible for defining and implementing HR strategy for the various R&D groups of Schneider, but HR in a whole. It's not just R&D strategy, but also Schneider in a whole. She has a career spanning more than 14 years. She worked with organizations such as Infosys, Wipro, and JP Morgan. So her expertise in these areas of leadership development, career paths, diversity, and well-being in the workplace. She leads the diversity and inclusion in her company, not only here, and she is also known to lead energy projects. When I say energy, it is not power, it is the maximizing personal energy. Okay, she's an electrical engineering engineer and an MBA in HR. Let me have the pleasure of welcoming you, Shikha.
Thank you.
So this we move to the topic today. All of you know the topic, I believe. Who was not understood? Either. I did not. Okay. So the panel topic today is, so with all your permission, I can start the panel.
Yeah.
So the panel topic today is technical career growth beyond glass ceiling. What is glass ceiling? So if you do the Googling, you'll be wondering why are we sitting here? All the men will be thinking why are we sitting here? Glass ceiling seemingly mentions about the women and how they're not able to go beyond an invisible block of glass on the top of your head. Yeah. So it represents the invisible barrier. It says that okay, I can go become a CEO, but something is stopping me. Something is stopping my head. I'm not able to climb up. What is that which I'm not able to climb up? Is that glass ceiling. And generally it was referred to women in general, or the minority in general. For example, an Indian in a French company, or a few women in a big organization. It's very easy for a person to go from a normal engineer to a level like mid-management. Probably a senior manager, probably a director, mostly in people management roles. Or he can become an architect. And most of you people are working in a company which is an MNC R&D services company in Bangalore. Sorry for the usage of services, but that's what we do. Yeah. So based on Bangalore, there seem to be some sort of glass ceiling on the top, wherein we are not able to cross. So some of you already faced it, are facing it, some of you will face it. The topic of today is this glass ceiling. How to avoid this, how to go beyond this. Okay? So I'll start with Sudeep, you. Do you agree with me that there is a glass ceiling like this for a probably mid-management career people? And if yes, to what extent?
So do you want me to use that?
So before I start, can I just 1 second?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you, Naveen. One thing I wanted to do from the institute point of view is because all the three are now here as Vatik. So warm welcome to three distinguished speakers first, because it's a welcome from IIIT-Bangalore. And all the three of them, as Mr. Naveen has said, illustrious career, and the topic is very interesting. Not only you, of this industry around, and also in the academia, not only industry, academia also, there is a midlife crisis sometimes. So it is everywhere. So it's a beautiful topic, and so thank you and welcome all the three of you, and particularly Sudeep and Mr. Vidyasagar. Vidyasagar is a very common name in Bengal, so and thanks Gupta for coming. Sir, go ahead. You wanted to say?
So your question was, do you agree that there is a glass? Is that what you were asking me?
In the technical career path, as we call it.
Well, before that, let me ask all of you here, how many of you want to become CEOs?
Come on.
So should I assume that 50% of you, or a little more than 50% of you, don't want to become CEOs?
They may be CTOs.
Or CXOs. So let me.
That's a bit of CXOs.
CXOs. So how many of you want to become CXOs? Okay, I think it's still 50%. But whatever the number and percentages are, I think the answer to that question is yes and no, depending on what your perspective is. Why do I say this? I say it because the whole concept of glass ceiling perhaps comes because there's such a large number of people in the industry now. This is an industry which has more than 2 million software or IT professionals today. In fact, reaching closer to 3 million now, with the current year's growth. Directly employed IT professionals. And obviously there are not that many companies and that many positions for people to become CEOs or even CXOs. However, there are enough examples of technical people having become CEOs. Company across the road, including your current chairman of the governing body, all of them are technical people. So that is Murthy or Nandan or Chris. All of them technical people, started life as programmers, and all of them became CEOs. You see that in the global industry as well. Bill Gates was a programmer. He started writing code. Philip Kahn, the great Philip Kahn of Bolland, who wrote all those compilers in the early 80s and 90s, was a technical person. Tom Siebel, a technical person, and so on and so forth. So there is a large number of examples of purely technical people, started as coders, started as programmers, started as maintenance engineers, who went on and became CEOs of companies. However, there's also a very large number who haven't made it, or usually have got stopped off at, let's say, a couple of levels below the CXO level. And if I look at the reasons for it, I think one of the reasons which I think is something which many technical people must think about is, are you doing enough to broaden your horizon other than the immediate work that you've been assigned? When I say broaden your horizon, are you looking at other functions, other aspects of governing a business? Whether it is finance, whether it is HR, whether it is sales and marketing, whether it is some of the interpersonal skills required to become a broader leader, which includes being an extrovert, being involved with groups of people who are outside your area of influence, your area of work, etc. And I think the answer lies in many of these. Those who do this tend to get a broader set of experiences and therefore qualify themselves to be considered for positions higher on in the technical ladder to get into business roles. Those who don't, many of them get stuck at that level. It's not that an organization brands those people and then doesn't allow them to move forward. It is many of the people in these positions do not seem to see the broader picture. I always quote an example during my Wipro days here at this campus, where I one day was having lunch in our cafeteria with Azim Premji, and then at the end of the lunch we came out and met a group of technical people, youngsters who were passing by, and I just asked many of them, do you know who I was having lunch with? And 2-3 of them said no. So immediately I said to them, I said, if you're oblivious about your surroundings and only in love with your computer, you will never grow as a person. So not knowing, and this is not someone whose pictures you don't see, or whom you don't come across very often, and etc., etc. But you're working in that company, in that campus where there are 8,000-10,000 people, and not being able to recognize the person is just an example of the malice that I see in a lot of technical people. And then just a group of people who are completely oblivious about their surroundings, only in love with their computers, and do not see the broader picture. So I guess that's where the answer lies to your question.
That's a very interesting point to start with. So I'll move to Vidhi to answer this question.
Sure.
So it's right. We spend a lot of time with computers. As interacting with few people, they say, I don't get enough time to program. There's something beyond programming. There's something beyond what we do as a code, as a business. There is finance. So how should a person in a professional setup should widen his horizon? Is MBA the only way out? I'm just trying to provocate you. Is there a different way that you can extend your horizon and back up yourself with some muscles so that you can take a broader load on your shoulder?
Sure. Good afternoon. Delighted to be here with all of you, and thank you for the opportunity of being here and part of the panel to share some thoughts and insights. First of all, the glass ceiling metaphor or terminology which was used was largely at a time when women felt they were probably seeing a glass ceiling above. But then again, technical people, and also whether technical people are hitting a glass ceiling, I would like to approach this with a slightly different view. Glass ceiling, even for women, to me is non-existent anymore, and so therefore the terminology itself assumes a completely different connotation and then interpretation these days. Now, coming back to this question, I'm going to share a couple of points, which is again largely out of my experience with the companies I work for and the kind of work I have been doing in the last a couple of decades, interacting with people, moving around. I would think Sudeep has already touched a couple of points, and some of you will know, and you also know, I spent a lot of time with Wipro. I spent almost a decade with Wipro before I went to other companies. So, 3 things which come to my mind, whether it is technical or even non-technical. I also would like to probably qualify my statement when I say it's not only the technical people wanting to be or aspiring to be a CEO. You can be a CXO or a CTO, whatever. So I would like to kind of qualify that particular point. There are three things that I would like to share in terms of expanding the horizon. He said it already, but let me amplify a little more. In my experience and what I have seen in Philips and in Citicorp and a couple of other places, there are three things which come to my mind very distinctly. And I have seen people who have really done well. One is, I keep telling, and it's also true, don't take your career for granted. And I mean it. And what I mean by don't take your career for granted, career is not a gradient always. You need to always pause, step back, and do your career renewal often enough. Your career renewal is very important. Whatever is your career aspiration, at every 3-5 years you need to check back. How are you doing? What's your aspiration? Are you in the right direction? Is the company and whatever you're wanting to do, is it really taking you in the direction that you're talking about? Oftentimes, like what he said, we are so caught up with our work, we take the career for granted. So don't take your career for granted. And the corollary to that is you need to do a career renewal. Your career renewal is a kind of a time check if you want to see that and see where it is heading and what you want to do. Point number 2, your appetite for learning is very important. You need to have a constant appetite for learning. Don't get caught up. I don't have time. I am so caught. It's all fine, but there's so much happening around you. You need to know what's happening around you and your own appetite for learning, not only in your area, but also around all that which is happening. He also touched about what is your perspective about other functions. Okay, very important. The third one is about career movement is not necessarily vertical. Architect becoming a senior architect at CTO is one route, okay? But if you really want to aspire very big, you need to move horizontally. And I mean, a lot of people have moved horizontally to reach wherever they want to reach. And typically in many companies, a development guy will be even put in charge of customer support. And Wipro is a great example. I have seen Mr. Suta, he will pull a factory manager and made the person in charge of customer support and vice versa. And believe me, those people are so happy doing it because it really widened their horizon. Okay. And today, in the corporate world, the way things are changing, work itself is getting redefined. Lots of things are getting redefined. Some of the work which will be there today or hitherto may disappear tomorrow or day after. We don't know, right? Work is going through such a major transformation. So you need to know what is it that you need to do to move horizontally. There are some companies, I think also in your company, there are some companies which have made it mandatory for you to move across 1 or 2 horizontal positions before you go somewhere else, right? It's very important. Lastly, my last point in terms of horizon, broadening the horizon is networking. Most important is networking. You may be too good in what you're doing, but if you need others to broaden, you need others to talk about it. You need others to actually take a view on how you are doing. You may be too good, but if your networking is not okay, you're going to be stuck. And let me tell you, networking is not to be seen in a pejorative context. Networking has to be seen in a positive context. It is not banawing. It is not being chalu. Networking is about, are you able to leverage opportunities at the right time? And when I say networking, for example, there is a corollary point, which is the ability to seize opportunity is a major differentiator in life. Let me repeat, the ability to seize an opportunity is a major differentiator in life. Let's say 4 of us are in a company and all of us are, let's say, contemporaries. The person who is able to seize that opportunity and position himself or herself with the right credo is able to move forward very well. And that is not banawing, that is not being, you may call it street smart or whatever it is, but I would call it as your ability to network, and your ability to have other people broadcast about your capabilities. So there are many, but I think I just thought these four are very, very essential, and I have many great examples in the companies that I work for, where people have moved across, people have done some of these things, and they have really gone places and very satisfying. Not necessarily, I don't mean technical means you have to be only CTO, not that way, but you can be a CEO or you can be something else at a very top level. That's what I meant by, and I think I humbly want to submit this glass ceiling metaphor is, in my opinion, no longer valid.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. It's very important for us to know that whatever 4 points you mentioned is ultra critical. We underestimate the power of networking. We underestimate the power of learning. We are ever a student, ever, till the time we die, we are students. So I'll go on to you, Shikha. There's very important points which Vithi has brought about. So I'll move to the more operational perspective. So first is again you can respond to the glass ceiling part, and I want to know what as a Schneider as a company or any such companies you come across, do they have some deliberate training, deliberate support for the people to move horizontally across and also see widen the horizon? What kind of support the company does? What kind of support the you people support?
Thanks, Raveen. Thank you not just for the question, but also for inviting me here. And thank you, all of you, for having me as part of the panel. So let me first begin by talking about the glass ceiling. To my mind, glass ceiling is any invisible barrier which is stopping a specific group of people to do what they want to do. So in that sense, I beg to differ slightly from you. I still believe that glass ceiling exists. Depending on the role, depending on the organization, depending on the situation that you are in, it very much exists. But I also believe, and I think both Sudeep and you have said it, that I think the glass ceiling now exists largely in individuals' minds rather than as a formal barrier inside the organization. So that's a shift which I have seen personally for myself in the last so many years that I have worked. Now, what about the technical people? What I have noticed, especially in Schneider and also in the other organizations where I came across technical people, I realized that there is a stage in their career where they decide to either go into the project management path or into the people management path because that's how they see themselves growing. And by growth, I just don't mean only the vertical growth, but also growth in terms of scope, in terms of span, in terms of influence on the organization and things like that. And to that extent, I think partly it is also some things that organizations can change. For sure, there's lots that individuals can do, and we've heard some excellent points as to what individuals can do. But there is a deliberate attempt that organizations also have to make this technical career path more attractive to technical people. And that has been the attempt that Schneider has been having for the last so many years. So one, to make the whole progression more attractive for the technical people. So there is a formal technical career path where you know exactly what you should be doing or what you can expect to do as you move from one technical role to another, which was not so obvious, I would say 5-6 years back. Secondly, in terms of giving exposure to the technical people. So there is a very formal global program which is known as the Edison program, and I'm sure you know about it. The Edison program is more a reward and recognition program for the technical guys and girls, where we identify them basis the contribution they've done, not just to the organization but also to the industry, through patents, through white papers, sharing their knowledge through seminars and things like that. And then they are recognized monetarily, of course, but also recognized by giving them more opportunities to interact with technical leaders across various organizations, across countries. So they are able to share and learn from each other. That, I believe, has a huge impact on their growth as individuals. And also, maybe I'll be thrown out of the room after this, but I have felt that technical people have one very important gap, apart from networking for sure. The gap is in terms of the leadership skills. So most of the times technical people are equated to be the nerds, and the better you are, the more nerdish you are. So that's what I have seen. And in that bargain, sometimes they either don't themselves focus, or the organizations don't focus for them on improving what we call the soft skills, or what would actually be required, because you're working not only with the computers sitting at your desk, but also with human beings all around you. So again, organizations, I know not just Schneider, but many other organizations, and I was in Wipro for a very short duration. So I know that organizations are putting in very focused effort now to improve this aspect of technical people. Because most of the technical people are very motivated to, read up, keep abreast with latest technologies and all that, but they don't keep abreast with the latest trends in leadership. For example, how is Generation Y different from Generation X or the millennials, etc. So that again is a very important aspect that organizations are focusing on right now, and I think it's only then up to the people as to how they make the best use of it.
Beautiful. Thanks a lot, because that brings a question to you, sir. The question is there, like this. So, of course, I would like to know your view on the glass ceiling. Second point is, she spoke about our technical guys not equipped with certain soft skills, like networking, probably, like leadership, and communication, but in a base level. So, as an institute, as an academic, you're representing the academics here. Are you doing enough to gear up the people to face this new challenge? Because 10-15 years later, if you're a fantastic coder, that was good enough. But has the things changed? What are we doing in the academic side to make this, prepare our guys to the future challenge? Thank you.
Thank you, Naveen, for such a nice question. And thanks all the speakers for very nicely pointing out all those things. But let me come to the point straight. This soft skill and all those things. To the best of my understanding and from my experience, leadership is a natural phenomenon. It comes from inside. And if you look at one of the best managers of this country, like Rishi Modi and all, they have never gone to management schools. And if you look at this very serious some of the CEOs of this country, they have never gone to across the road, one of the IT industry's leaders. So they have never gone to the management schools, to the best of my memory, if I remember. So then how they become a leader? And they contributed so much. Practically they lead the country sometimes. One is steel factory. Rishi Modi, I've seen in my student career time, he was the chairman of the Tatas, and Tata Steel and Tata. And the other side is the IT industry, Mr. Murthy and Mr. Premji. I don't know about Mr. Murthy. So this is a natural phenomenon. Leadership comes from inside, and it is a very much internally cultivated, because if you train, then that is one part. Other part is that those who are not naturally inclined, they can be gone through the training program called soft skills or managerial skills like finance, all kind of things, and also good communications, behavioral science, how to behave with the people, how to do all kind of things. But after that training also, if you don't change yourself, you will come out again, you're opposite to that after the training also. So there are two parts to it. One is by training, changing yourself, and naturally changing yourself without going training. So example is, if you look at in India, education came, this higher education of managements and all came say 30-40 years. But if you look at our grandmothers and grandfathers, in the joint family, they used to nicely run the family actually. Grandmother never gone to school beyond class 5. Or class 3. So these are the leadership in the home. If you look at Indian context, joint families previously, it is a natural family. Point number one. Point number two, of course, now the joint family has gone and now the nuclear family, so we need to be trained because mass naturally not there, so trained. So for that, our IT programs, we have kept a summer, one called technical English, one is called marketing, and that is, they have to, it is all credit based, not, even though they are technical students, they go through all technical courses like all algorithm, programming, networking, database and all, but along with that summer they thoroughly go with these 2-3 courses. Okay, that we have done. But till that, let me come to the third point of it. One most important point which I wanted to say, which you both of you touched base, is the behavior, the how attitude, when we say in English, the attitude of a person, and the academics attitude. And the third point is the very important in the human life after certain is the health. So attitude is that how you behave with your colleagues. That is one point. Along with your leadership, the behavior should not be arrogant, because particularly this industry is a knowledge industry, IT industry. It's not like a jute plant or a steel plant where we have to shout on our labor class or like that. Here everybody is knowledgeable, and knowledge industry, behavior is extremely important. One has to be very cautious while behaving. Knowledge is such a thing, it's like a fluid. If you don't behave properly, the water flows in different directions. So this is, attitude is important, behavior. Another thing, particularly in our industry, IT industry, because of our style of work, walking is very less. So now the health is also important, because when you are exactly going to the higher ladder, your health will not allow. 30% of our people suffers from backache, handache, leg ache because of sitting 15 hours, 12 hours per day. So for going ceiling, if you can reach too close to the ceiling, your health will not allow. So you cannot go on the top of the ceiling. So you have to be extremely important for your health also. So this is so academics is there, of course, you have to work hard. For academics means not only academia, I mean industrial academics or in your area of works, but attitude and health, A and H, has to come on two sides of it. In between this should go on. And the leadership one has to cultivate naturally, internally. Even though you go to training, you bring into your gene that when you meet a person, that if you smile, it should be a natural smile, it should not be artificial. The other person is very intelligent, he will catch whether you are natural or not. So those are the things we have to cultivate as a leadership. So
I'm sure it will. Thank you, sir. I think it's a completely different topic to see whether leadership is inborn or cultivated. So thanks for your point, sir. So it's very true that we have to work on ourselves on the leadership. We have to have a good attitude, and most of all, we should have great health. If health fails, everything fails. Now we don't understand. You're all young guys. I'm going towards the border of young to youth, So I understand health is very, very important. So I'll come back to you, sir, Sudeep, sir. So you've been positioning companies in the market. You've been positioning how the market has to go. You've been telling people what to do. I would like to know what is your view on a typical IT professional in the future. How do you work? How does it position himself? How will the life be for a professional of the future? So you've seen the decades of how they have been progressing so far.
So, if I start with people of my generation who grew up with the early part of my career, and at that time both of us were colleagues actually. Late 70s, 80s, yes. The early 90s, let's say the first 15 years. The IT professional was a very different being. There was not that much of software involvement in that. There was more of, there was a group in R&D which used to do a lot of product development. There was a group in maintenance which used to do computer maintenance. There were a group of people who were writing software but really writing individual applications for client, not really very large. And therefore the skill sets required at that point in time was, other than academic knowledge of that particular area, a very closed environment in this country, very few companies, very few, so not so much of external influence, you know. People could get by without knowing what was happening in the rest of the world. Could get by without being, let's say, absolutely in touch with the latest developments. You know, developments used to happen somewhere else, and it used to come 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. So there was a phase lag. You could, you know, catch up later, and even if you didn't have some of those skills, it was all right. You could go to a reasonable extent. In the second half of career, let's say the last 15 years, that changed. You know, the internet changed everything, globalization changed everything. You know? So there's no such thing as India-based. You know, everything was global. You know, and therefore, once everything became global, you had to be aware of a lot more than just your area of work, and you had to be a lot quicker with knowledge of global developments in your field, you know. So the technical knowledge itself, you know, became very, very vast. You couldn't just restrict yourself to only your domain. If you think of the future, that's going to be another completely different, you know, type of kettle of fish, even very different from what it is today. What will change? You know, you will be competing for a job with anybody around the world, you know. So the HR person here should tell you that the choice to hire is not you, your group, your college, and your background. You know, the choice available is from a global pool. Makes it very different. So, you know, your competition is going to be absolutely different than what it is. So that's the first difference. What's the second difference? You know, the rapidity of change is ensuring that what was current today is no longer current in 3 years, 5 years time.
Cycle is faster.
You know? So you want to be ahead of the curve. Not just with the curve, but ahead of the curve if you want to protect your career. You know? So, you know, people who came into the workforce 3 years ago, 4 years ago, have all come in with knowledge of how to use Twitter, how to use social media, you know, what to do in terms of getting your point of view across, you know, whether it's through a WhatsApp group or to anything else, you know. Wasn't required when some of you passed out, you know. Definitely not there when you, you know, passed out, or even when you got into middle management. So that's it. So second, so you've got to be ahead of the curve. Third, you know, businesses will succeed and collapse so much faster that, you know, you will wonder as to why you didn't make it, because you just didn't spot something which is going on. There used to be a magazine, in fact it used to, Fortune used to list out companies which are there 20 years ago and were not there. All right? I bet you the next round will be companies who were there 5 years ago and not there now. You know, by the time you get into your mid-career and towards the, you know, the higher points of your career, you'll have companies which existed 5 years ago and don't exist anymore. So that's the speed of change. So the professional of the future will have to adapt to all of this. And finally, you will find a lot more people, you know, who become entrepreneurs within an organization. We didn't have to do that. First half of our career, none of us thought like that you needed to become entrepreneurs within an organization. So, what I mean by entrepreneurs within your organization is, how do you grow your function, your business, etc. Just as, you know, you'll treat your company or as an investor in your business, and you'll have to grow that. You'll have to grow that. So you have to become entrepreneurial. which again was not a requirement, necessary requirement of the job.
Thank you, sir. Very strong points. I think we all have to note it down. That the cycle of change is reduced. Once upon a time, I remember, so the technology life cycle change was 20, 30 years. It was 100 years before when the trains came, when the locomotive came. Now it is like 50 years. Now it's come down to 5 years, as you say. So it's a very important point. So we need to keep abreast of the change. What you know today is not valid for tomorrow. So that's a very important point. And you also mentioned about entrepreneurs, which brings to a very interesting point for me. So, I mean, we used to call entrepreneurs earlier. Probably it's a wrong usage of English, but when they say entrepreneurs, somehow we feel that the current HR policies are very, very company specific. The company, in the sense, it's not so employee beneficial, it's company specific. I'm trying to challenge both for HR as well. I'll have to be careful, but company specific and not very employee friendly. But with increasing entrepreneurship inside the organization, the stakeholding of the individual employee will grow higher and higher. With increasing stake in terms of employee stock options and all the ownership of the company, and as usual as stakeholding will increase, will there be a policy change if you put on a crystal glass and see? Will there be more difference in what we are today in the policy and also the way our companies function compared to today?
Sure. I just want to add to what Sudeep was saying. I couldn't but recall when he was talking about the rapidity of change. I remember when the 1888 came, and by the time the Intel chip, those years in 80s, and then the 286 and the 386, and there was a time lag of almost about 1.5 to 2 years, and the 486. You see the kind of change. Today, phones are coming every other month. You can see the kind of change which is happening. So just be aware of the rapidity of change, and I'm dilating the same point he said. The rapidity of change and your ability to adapt. It's going to be a major precursor to what you want to do in life. Just be aware of that. So that's the point. I was remembering that 88 days, 88. All right. Now coming back to Naveen's question, I would think the word career or career itself is going through a major metamorphosis. Conventional careers will be a pass. What I mean by a pass is, not that it will disappear a conventional career, but many of those things will get rewritten and then kind of reviewed differently. You will find a lot of people starting in a very conventional way, then they will take a sabbatical, move into something else. You may even find a software person going and then doing photography, coming back or becoming all these things will happen, and it is already happening in many parts of the world. So career itself will go through a major metamorphosis. Okay. So therefore, coming back to an organization, how it will react to the requirements of people, the constituency of people, it will change. And I know lots of companies are changing today. The people policies, I hate to call HR policies. HR is a function, and HR many times is used very derogatorily. HR is not doing this, HR is not, which is okay. I spent all my life in HR. So, however, today the change is pretty much visible. Today policies, many of the progressive companies, policies are being written through crowdsourcing. I'm sure some of you would have heard this. Now, many companies cannot publish their policy without crowdsourcing views. And I know many companies do it very successfully across the world. Okay. So therefore, the tidings are very different, and I think everything is going to be here and now. What is requirement, today's requirement will change tomorrow. So therefore, again, the organization's ability to quickly respond to the needs of the constituency will become again one of the major requirements for the organizations to continuously succeed. If people take a view in organization, I wrote a policy, I'll review after 1 year, God save the company. Those days are gone. Okay. So that's one, and many companies are doing. Then I want to add just two more points, which is again important for all of you. One is, I forgot to mention in my previous comment, You need to have a mentor in your career. Okay, you need to have a mentor. Mentor not necessarily the person has to be within your organization. A person who can be outside, he can be your friend, or he can be your teacher, or you can be someone who is a well-wisher. It's like a sounding board. Many of us have gone through many career crossroads, and we did not know what to do at that time. I wish some of us had better mentors in our career. So it's important to have a career mentor, or a mentor who will understand what are your aspirations. We talked about career renewal, right? Mentor is an essential part of your career renewal. Just keep it at the back of your mind. The last 2 points are, which I think you was talking about, the globality of skill sets. You will compete with the global skill sets, which is very true, which is happening in many other organizations. So therefore, what is important when you're competing in a global talent pool, there are 2 points which I have seen people who have succeeded. The capability, individual capability, which really surfaces in my mind, is how well you are transculturally sensitive. Your transcultural sensitivity in a global context is going to be a major harbinger on how you would like to succeed in your career and elsewhere. Just keep it at the back of your mind. Second, your tolerance for ambiguity is very important. Not everything will be clear in life. It's never going to be clear. Nobody who even develops a product will not, as they say, you have to move and then make the changes, right? You need to move. Your ability to move and not get stuck is a very important point in your career graph. Lastly, and again, this is something I have always appreciated, what I picked up in a company that I work for, Motorola, is your ability to see the big picture, your ability to see beyond your nose. Can you see the ability to see beyond your nose, the big picture in your career, in your business? He talked about the business, the way the entire landscape of business will change is going to be so different, unimaginable changes will happen even in the next 1 or 2 years. So your ability to see the big picture all the time is going to be very, very crucially important. So I just strayed away a little bit from my HR stuff, but I thought it is very important to add to the list that I talked about. Thank you.
We lose track of time and things are happening so nicely. So if you don't mind, I'll take 5 more minutes. So then last question to you, and then I'll open up for the questions. Okay. Very quickly, Shika, very nicely put by Vidhi on what should we do to be able to cater to the rapidity of change and ability to adapt. What 2 things all of us should do on a daily basis starting from today onwards? Very quickly, if you can.
So very quickly, 2 things that I believe everybody should do: connect and connect.
Well said.
Thank you. So if you, I'll have 5 minutes of interaction. So if you have some questions, please.
Hello, sir. So do you think the comfort zone of a person who's working, if he finds his comfort zone, do you think he really needs to see whether he needs to go above the glass ceiling, or what if the person is really content and he's comfortable?
Well, my advice is see your comfort zone as a burning platform. Okay, it won't exist. It is a burning platform, and before you realize it, it'll be gone. So let me give you a couple of examples. 2 from different angles. One from a product angle. All of you remember Nokia as a company. Till 5 years ago, it used to be the number one company, unbeatable company in mobile phones, right? The company is dead. It sank like the Titanic, bottom of the ocean. Why? From a product perspective, they were in their comfort zone, thinking that they were in the business of making phones. They didn't realize the tunnel vision. They didn't realize that people no longer wanted to buy phones. The device that you carry today is a camera, a social media platform, your computer doing your email, plus your phone. Nokia was making phones. So the ground shifted beneath their feet and the company ceased to exist. I'm carrying a BlackBerry, and this itself is a very important thing. You remember their ad? We are the BlackBerry boys. Where are the BlackBerry boys?
Went to jungle now.
So that's what happens if you are in a comfort zone.
Hello, my name is Ashish Gupta. I come from the class of 2008. First of all, thanks to all of the panel members. Really interesting talks. My question is specific to Mr. Vidyasagar, and I actually have two questions. One is your point regarding networking and the ability to grasp opportunities. Very, very insightful. Can you give us some tools or some methods to identify which opportunities could be the ones that would be good for us to take? How to separate out the signal from the noise? And second is, I come from semiconductor industry, so and that to consumer electronics changes like every month or every 2 months. So there is always a tension between or a conflict between building a strong domain expertise, depth, versus being able to adapt to new technology or horizontally different roles. So how do we resolve that conflict?
Yeah, I will answer your second question first and go to your first question. I think the first few years of your career, I think good to go deep dive, good to have depth in your domain, which is which will give you a good foundation in the technology or in the domain you're talking about. But I think after 3-5 years, you need to look beyond technology, beyond the depth. So that will give you an answer. You need to be looking around what is the related technology to your technology, and therefore you will always be looking for how do you grasp or how do you actually get to know what's happening around. So that's one. That's the second part. Now, one can go deep dive if you want. There's nothing wrong. But I think in today's world, that is not enough is our view. You may be like a frog in the well if you don't look around and see what's happening around. And therefore, that's the second part of the question. The first part is actually the first question had two parts and they are interlinked. You will seize an opportunity when you actually look at and when you network and when you do things very well. So how does one do it? So there is no magic wand, and I will go back to the earlier point I made that you need to constantly look at what do you want to do in your career, and then you need to actually be at the right places at the right time, as they say. It may sound a little phony, but it is actually true. You need to know what's happening in your company all the time. You need to know which product is doing well, which product is not doing well, which product is actually seeing the demise, which is the sunrise product, which is the sunset product, stuff like that. I'm giving you an illustration. So your understanding of the business context in detail will give you a nose for where to seize opportunities and then position yourself. Okay. And the related point I would like to make is when you are doing that, don't hesitate to make a move if you have to make a move. I know a lot of people who can get stuck in a Bengaluru is a very great place, I don't want to move. They get stuck. Okay. And people get stuck and they don't move. And I see a lot of people get fossilized by this thinking. So when there is a great opportunity, if you have to move, please move. If it is a horizontal move, it's like saying 2 steps backward. For you to take a leap, you need to do that. And that's why I put the entire thing in a holistic way when I say the entire thing is part of your career renewal. Every 3 years, 5 years, take a rain check to see how is your career going. Is it going in the desired direction or it is not? Or if it is not going, what else to do? So therefore, it's a combination of all this that you do. And you need to spend time. And you are talking about tools and techniques, etc. All that I would like to tell you is no great many tools, etc. You need to spend time. You need to actually sit down and spend time at regular intervals to see where it is going. That will help you. You know, it's like he was mentioning somewhere earlier, it's like how do you expand your circle of influence? You understand the circle of influence, right? The moment you expand your circle of influence, you know what else to do to further your career and to further your aspirations.
Last question. Yeah, the shelf life of an industry is reduced from maybe 25 companies and industry, I think 20 to 25 years to 5 years, maybe even less than now. When the shelf life of the company itself is reduced, how does the career path of an individual is determined by the giants in the industry? What should be the focal point for the individual in terms of, should you look at long-term career path or riding a wave? Because every 3 years there will be a wave. So how does he factor that in the thing? The second point actually to a large extent also depends on, in terms of what you had mentioned in terms of the, that applies to the change part, but in terms of the skill part. When I say skill part, I basically will say about in terms of the choices which the person has, how do you factor elimination of some choices and choosing some choices? Because when there are so many opportunities which will be coming because of this rapidity of change, how do you choose what you should let go and what you should take?
So actually shelf life of companies have not gone away. Shelf life of products have gone away. So let's take Sony for example. Akio Morita made Sony in the 1946, 45-46 time frame as a radio company. But Sony exists today. They don't make radios anymore, but they are very good in PS2 systems and LED TVs and others. A part of that, plus they make pictures, Sony pictures and different. So they've moved with the times, so they still exist. There are companies which have not. So for example, Hindustan Motors, the great old ambassador, the classic example of a company which didn't move with the times. They didn't make any products,
Kodak.
Kodak. They were always there. Kodak. Lots of companies which didn't move. So that's when, so you have to identify the companies which are moving and therefore build your careers in those companies which are moving and drop those companies which have got stuck with their own, one product or their group of product, etc., where the ground is shifted beneath their feet and, the technology has changed. So that's where you have to do the identification. And that's where, once you do the identification correctly, you can continue to build your career.
Yeah, just to add to what Sudeep was saying, a good illustration is what he said. For example, you take, when the entire world was going digital, Motorola stuck to analog, and that was the death knell for Motorola. And they refused to move quickly. So if you are interested only in analog as an illustration and you don't move towards digital, you know what can happen, as an analogy. And therefore, you need to be constantly looking ahead to understand the business context, where the businesses are moving, where the technology is moving, where the people's actual aspirations are moving. So all of them are important to actually take a view of what is actually important to you. Lastly, there is something called, and I always go back to the GE guy, what he says, you have to go by your gut. There's something called a gut. And your gut will tell you, and most often the gut will tell you rightly. And you make a choice also. You can have a lot of empirical data, and you need to do that. You need to look at a lot of data, look at the best of analytics and all that. But finally, the gut will tell you what is the right one, notwithstanding the earlier points that we talked about. You cannot say, I will ignore all that, but my gut tells me, then it can be foolhardy. So it's a fine thread, it's a fine balance, and that's why knowing the context fully well, the changing context, will become a harbinger of what you could do and what you could not do. Yeah, sure.
Just to add, because I do a lot of work on career pathing and I talk to a lot of people advising them on making choices about their career path, I realized that, and we did touch upon it slightly about the workplace of the future. In future, your career path or your career growth is not going to be restricted to organizations. It's really going to be defined by individuals, and it is going to be defined by the individuals who are willing to take risks. And by that I don't mean foolhardy risks. I mean the risks which are calculated by observing the trends that are coming up, by going a little ahead, stretching yourself a little ahead from your comfort zone. And we had a chat about the comfort zone as well. But then really, ultimately, it is going to be an individual career path and not a path which will be restricted to organizations.
Yes.
Good.
Yes. Well
Thank
said.
you. I think we should close. Thanks a lot. I mean, just to give another illustration which is continuing, so we are stopping discussion. You remember sharp electronics? Anybody knows why it is called sharp? Because they're making pencils, sharp pencils. So they know the publishing industry is changing from pencils to printers. So they moved from pencils to printers. What a big change. Yeah. So thanks a lot for all of you here. I have some key takeaways here. All of you have your own in your mind. Just to recap. So glass ceiling, all three of them equivocally said not existing. But if it is existing, it's only in the mind, not in the organization. So there is a couple of points which says there is rapidity of change. We should have the ability to adapt. There are some key points which came out of the discussions. Please take that in your mind and use the way you want it. And the last and most important point, short and sweet, connect. So thanks a lot for your advice, your wisdom, your participation here in the panel. Please give them a huge applause.